Welcome, welcome, filmmakers. If you are here, let us know that you are here. What do you do in the business? Where are you watching from? We want to know in that comment box. Hello, Alexandra from, what even is that? Taku. I'm never going to say that word. We'll just say Honduras, but that's great. I love it. Thanks for being here. Put your name and where you're from and what you do in the biz so we know who we're talking to, especially if you are in the music supervisor side of things or are here to learn more about them and what is your project you're looking for, because everything you put in the comment box will feed into what we talk about in this session, as well as your questions will be answered. So love, love, love. I have somebody else from Honduras. Great. Well, Honduras repping today. So if you are new to us, this is Black Magic Collective. We are a collective of film and TV artists and crew. We have events on the craft, initiatives to help filmmakers advance in their careers, a film festival. Membership is free. Everything we do is free, except the festival. There's a $5 fee to submit if you're a member. But we basically get to do all this thanks to our sponsor, Black Magic Design. And it's a rare company who loves filmmakers the way they do, and they just continue to help us out, as well as Sigma, who has been our partner this year for events and helping get our lenses into our fellows' hands. So thank you, Sigma. Also, the BMC Film Festival is currently open for submissions. So we just got these really beautiful awards too. They're so nice. So if you're interested, it's only $5 for members to submit. Go to Film Freeway and you'll be able to submit your 20-minute or less narrative film. And there are money and cameras and all kinds of other prizes besides the pretty awards that we just got. We want to also make you aware of the new program that I've created, the Working Director Accelerator. It helps emerging filmmakers become working directors. So go join our free Facebook group and you'll learn a lot more about what the program is and get free stuff along the way because, you know, Facebook, free resources, fun stuff. Again, make sure you put all your questions in the comment box as we go through because I'll be grabbing them along the way. And let's get started. So, what is a music supervisor and how would working with one level up your film? How do you know a music supervisor would be helpful for your project? How do you know which supervisor is right for you, your personality, your project? Our guest, Jennifer Smith, has worked with some of the biggest shows on TV, from American Idol to Why Women Kill, and she even teaches music supervision for UCLA Extension and Los Angeles College of Music, and she's going to answer all of our questions, or at least I'm going to try to get her to. Spotlight, interrogation. Hi. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Everybody stick around to the end because we're going to give away some free stuff. Be active in the comments. So just to start with let's start from scratch. What exactly is a music supervisor? What do you do?
That's a good question. I feel that music supervisors, everyone's like, we're like this shiny, illustrious, like kind of thing that no one knows really what we do. And people think they know what we do, but they actually don't. So for us, we are an important crew member, not just in post-production, but also for your development, your pre-production, and your production as well. So we really help you find your sonic vision. We work with you, especially if you've written music into scripts. So we do the business, we do the creative, we do on cameras, which is any singing, dancing, karaoke, you know, it doesn't have to be like a big number, like someone just singing in a car, you need a music supervisor for. And also people singing on camera, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen before you shoot, which includes pre-records, handling that, we also work with composers. We don't just plug songs, we also work with composers, and all the different departments and all the different things. So we are a very big, important crew member for development, pre-production, production, and post. Are one of the few crew members that start from the beginning all the way through the end. A lot of people don't realize that, and you need us before you start shooting. You know, time is of the essence. Pre-production, you can't fix it in post, you know, contrary to what people think. Pre-production is key to success, and that includes for music as well. We also know about union rules, non-union rules, all these different intricate things. I know it's a very broad question or broad answer for your question, but we do so many things that people don't just realize. We also have relationships for music. You have original music needs, we handle that. You know, what makes us important is also our Rolodex, right? Because if you need a song in a film and you only have X amount of money, either it's, oh yeah, I have a friend that can help us out at the label or the publisher, or it's, you know, maybe you can't afford that song. So what are some great options that are within your creative vision that are also budget? Music costs money, everyone. It's intellectual property, just like your film is important, your script is important. Music is important and it costs money. This idea that, exposure exists, exposure is not a thing anymore. We live in a very different world. Just like your film isn't getting made for free for exposure. It's the same idea.
There's a lot to unpack. I loved it. That was a great setup. Jesse from Brooklyn, New York City. I'm a director, actor, producer, writer. You do a lot of stuff and a music lover. Thanks for joining us, Jesse. Dave Shatnoff, producer from Los Angeles. Shout out to Dave. And Sunny with a great question. So does a music supervisor also handle the business side of things?
We do. We handle all the business side of things. Our job, excuse me, is to protect you, right? Because to the best of our ability, we need to protect our production on the legality side. Ironically, we're not lawyers, which is funny. People think I'm a lawyer all the time. I've just been doing this job for over, a decade. No big deal. Good Gene sunscreen. It's all good. We also handle the business side of things. Music costs money. It's intellectual property. People own different copyright splits. Just because you're friends in a band doesn't mean you get it for free because you don't know what's going on. Maybe there's a player that they wrote with who's a union player. That changes your entire thing. So we handle the creative, the business, everything. It's a wide spectrum. We do both.
I want to really quickly talk about that before we get into more of what the music supervisor can do for films, because I know right now the music supervisors are working to become union, and there's almost a pushback against it. And I hear you talking about all of this stuff that you guys do, and it's more than say a composer would do. And not like the composers we need them, we love them, and they have a big job, but you're basically producers.
Yeah.
And so there's really no producers union either, though they have started one and they're trying to. It's weird how people who are in those positions, who are the ones who are in charge of everything, don't have union support. Is there anything that people watching can do to help you guys push forward to make that happen?
Of course. We have a petition link. We can drop that in the chat. I'm so sorry, Kayla. Did I send that to you? I think I did. We have a petition to sign. If you can sign, and everyone works on sets, right? I had a conversation with a DP who didn't even know that we didn't have union protections, and he said, "Oh my gosh, how can I help?" Talking to other people on set, in post-production, even your crew. I mean, completely honest, I work with some amazing producing teams, and they didn't even know I had protections, and they're like, "What can I do to help?" Because it's a systematic problem we need to change. It's not one person's. It's not like one person's being mean. It's a systematic problem that has to do with studios and how production is set up. And that's what we're fighting for, a systematic change, not just, this studio is being mean to me, which I think a lot of people don't realize. When you are unionizing, it's not about one person. And there's amazing departments we work with at the studios, and the people that are in those departments that just don't have the power to change things. We need to change the system problem, which will trickle down to other crew members, whether it's on set or post-production. There's a lot of important people that are part of the team of creating content that aren't protected.
I would say the protections that unions provide for working conditions is important, but I would assume that also means without being union, you don't have the same health benefits and things like that, even though you're working more hours often than somebody who does have those benefits.
Yes. So it's one of those things where we work, I just mentioned a little bit of what I do on my job. Each production is unique and different depending on what you need to do. Some don't have on camera, some are just post-production, all those different things. We don't have those things. I'll be honest, I work on something from beginning to end. Say it's an indie film, they're like, we'll pay you $5,000. You want it for 2 years. You are expected to work 12 plus hours. For example, I work on projects and you have to go get COVID tested. Everyone gets paid $250 to go get COVID tested. I don't. If I get sick with COVID on set, I have no protections. When I average out my hours on what I need to do for my job that's dictated by a schedule of delivery, I get paid less than minimum wage, right? I'm just talking about my experience. Every music supervisor has unique and different experiences. Not, it's apples and oranges. Some productions treat other people better, but you have big studios that are saying, I'm going to pay you $1,000 an episode for your expertise. Music doesn't cost money. It's pretty horrific. People have protections we don't. Also, health and pension, no pension, right? No health, you know, a lot of people have to pick, do I pay my rent? Do I eat? Or do I get healthcare? Do I pay my car payment? Do I not? When COVID happened and we all, you know, everyone in the industry kind of got hit, actually everyone got hit. We had no protections. I was part of a committee that put together different resources for people in my community and my craft, where they could go. How do you go get food? What type of resources are available to you? Like the Actors Fund. You don't have to be an actor to have their resources and to get their help. People did not know. The studios that said we're protecting, you know, our crew, we were excluded from that. They didn't, none of them that were on those shows saw a cent.
I'm really glad we brought this up and we share it. And we definitely will send this clip around with the petition on our socials so that whoever sees it can hopefully be active. At the very least, signing a petition takes 2 seconds. So that we'll definitely push that out. And Sonny, I agree. It's sorry to hear about that. And he would love to get the petition link. So we'll get that for sure. David has a great question. He's a producer and he says, I hear that having distribution in place makes a huge difference when trying to land those popular needle drops. If it does, how much of a difference does it make? And what is the trade-off if we are making projects that are festival market bound and don't have distribution secured before filming?
So music deliverables are a huge deliverable, you know, for anything. That includes film festivals, right? When you sign saying, I have permission to use this, you open yourself up to liability if you're using any music. Fun fact, royalty-free music sites, those licenses are not valid. You will not get distribution with those licenses. You can't even use them for a film festival. You know, wow. I have a whole problem with those royalty film festival or music royalty sites because I feel like they pry on music creators and they pry on filmmakers. That's a whole rant for another day. But it's important to have, you know, your business buttoned up. And, you know, I know we're all creative, but those business buttoned up. I think every project has a unique and different sound and story. I'm a storyteller through sound, right? I'm here to help you tell your story. Sometimes needle drops are not needed. Sometimes there are. I mean, I work with composers too to help create beautiful landscapes and to translate what your vision is with what they're looking for. And also, I don't have a budget for a live string quartet. Great. What kind of stuff can we do instead? So there's a lot of different areas. Could you pull up the question one more time, please, Jen?
Yeah, it's definitely a big, long one.
Yeah. So there's always a thing I hear sales agents say, we need big needle drops to secure distribution. I have definitely watched films that have big needle drops. I'm like, why would you spend this much money on this? It doesn't help your story. It doesn't make me have that. That's why you need a music supervisor to help you figure out where those spots are. And just because there's a big song in your film, one, doesn't mean it's needed. Two, it doesn't elevate the story. And, you know, it just depends on what it is. Now, for music on my side, knowing your distribution, yes, helps me get what you need. And just with the world we live in now, there's so much content being sold. Music creators, publishers, labels, managers, independent artists, creators, they need to know, where is this being seen? Is this going to be online? Is it going to do this? Say you only have a budget of a $5 million film, which means, you know, your music budget's like, right? They need to protect their copyright. They want to know where it's going. They want to know how it's being used. They want all these different answers. That's why I always do film festival license with an option for all media. So if you're going to sell your film, it's included in your deliverable. You're good. I can only afford film festival rights, but I have an option pickup. By the way, option pickups, the filmmaker pays for, not the distributor. So keep that in mind. If you're like, oh, I want to use an Elton John song for a film festival only for 2 years, and then there's an all media pickup, you have to pay that, not the sales agent, not the distribution, none of that. That comes still from your pocket. So that's important to understand. That's why you hire a music supervisor to talk to you about what type of, you know, needs do you need. When, you know, I have these, I call them sexy conversations about what is your intention with your film? Where is it going? Who are you talking to? Is it a certain film festival? Because people see in the press, Netflix paid $10 million, I'm making this up, for some independent film that was at Venice, right? You know, all those things. Well, if you paid a music creator $10,000, $5,000 for their music, and they see in the press how much money you're making, granted, music creators don't know how content's made and how distribution works and all that stuff, but you can understand why they'd be a little bit upset, right? It's their intellectual IP, it's their creative that you license for $5,000, $10,000, $500, whatever it is. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a conversation you have with your music supervisor before you get started. Before pre-production includes music. Music is not something in post. It's something that you need to talk about even before. Even if you're just doing score, you need to talk to your music supervisor, because we work with composers score, and there's so many intricate things that we know that you wouldn't know to understand when you're interviewing composers. We also know composers, and everyone has different needs, because again, you are liable. You need the deliverables for your distribution, as well as creating a creative vision where you don't get sued or get an extra tax, right? If it's a union, if you're saying I'm a non-union production and you're using union musicians, you have a problem. You're going to get fined. They're going to come after you. So it's about understanding these different intricacies with music.
Sunny has a good question that kind of piggybacks on that, which is what is the director, music supervisor, composer relationship like? Does a director go to you? How do they work with you and the composer? And especially when the composer, usually in indie film, is somebody they already know, it's already their friend.
So usually directors will come talk to me. Again, it's making sure that you guys see eye to eye. It's interesting. I know as directors have, a vision when it comes to things, but a lot of things come to money, content. I want to use this song. You don't know if that writer, artist, producer went through something personal that they don't approve that, right? Moby is a vegan. He will never approve anything that has to do with animals, with like eating animals, right? Or anything not like that. That's their point of view. So if the director comes to me, we have a conversation. I always read the script. We have, just a conversation about what is this. Usually they do have their composer. The composer and I talk. We have a thing called a spotting session. Your music supervisor is always at a spotting session where we watch the film. There's usually temp music in there. The director says, I like this, I don't like this, and why? So that the composer and I can get an idea, because the composer is the one that's actually creating the content. Music supervisors don't physically play things. We're not physically making the music. That is the composer's job. So we just have a working relationship where we talk about music. Why do you love that song? Is it about the lyrics? Is it about the tone? Is it about the energy? Does it give you a sense of joy? How do you define joy? Because if you're saying, I want a female empowerment song, that's very broad, very, very broad. Do you want something like Little Sims? Do you want something like Demi Lovato? Do you want something like Beyonce? Like, it's such a spectrum of everything. Do you want something like No Doubt? It's such a spectrum of things. So we get into about talking about character, environment, story, tone, feeling, all those different things to come up with a language, the three of us, because it's a collaborative process. It's okay if you don't like something, but if you can't say why you don't like it or why it doesn't fill your vision, that's a problem. It's about creating
I love
landscape.
This conversation because I feel like indie directors, especially because there's never money for music supervisors, usually in indie, there's a lot of disconnect between the director and the composer because they're not speaking the same language.
Hmm?
So they may get along and they may love each other, but it's like, I always joke with my composer that I'm like, I want more whoosh, whoosh, bang, bang. Go figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear that a music supervisor in a way, you speak the director's language and the composer's language. So it's a great way to even get more from your composer that you already love.
Exactly. And the composer will send me things they're thinking about, and I'll say, that's really great. During our spotting session, Jen said she wanted more whoosh, whoosh, bang, bang. So when you are doing this to the picture, because again, music has to bend to picture, picture never bends to music. That's why sometimes songs don't work, because they don't bend properly to the story and to the music. Jen wants more whoosh, whoosh. So when she said that, when she meant by whoosh, whoosh, in this part of the story, she wants it to be bigger, right? So let's bring up the horns, or let's do this, and kind of play with it and see how it goes to picture and have a conversation, and then send it to you, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's what I meant by whoosh whoosh, because your definition of whoosh whoosh might be horns and the composer says whoosh whoosh is something else. So we kind of have this relationship where we can go to the director and say, at least for me, I say, okay, what does whoosh whoosh mean to you? Give me an example. Is there like a song? Yeah, this part of the song is so whoosh whoosh. Great. You listen to it, you take notes, and then you go to the composer and say, okay, again, let's kind of dive down. I love where you're going. but let's bring it down, or let's bring it up, or it's not, you know, we have so much dialogue, your music's gonna get buried, and we have so much sound design, and everything has to fit together to fit the story and the vision.
I love that too, because again, with my composer, we always have these things where it's like the composers always want their music so loud, and I'm like, less, way less, way less. So it's great to have those talks before they even start writing, before they waste their time composing. You're already thinking of all of that, which I love.
Exactly, because we watch the film together, or we watch, you know, it's not finished, it's very rough, but it's picture locked, right? Composers cannot work with things that are not picture locked, because music goes to picture. You can't just be like, oh, just add 2 seconds. It doesn't work like that. It's such a different process. But our job working with composers, you know, every composer also works different. Some composers say, no, Jen, I don't want to send you any of my ideas ahead of time. And I'm like, all right, we'll figure it out. You know, it's about managing personalities, expectations. Also, for us, we have a great Rolodex of people we work with. I work with a tons of independent musicians, right? Yes, I work on giant shows, but I work on documentaries. I work in the audio narrative space. I work, you know, in TV, whether it's reality, scripted, film, whether it's a big film budget or a small film budget. You know, I'm of the mindset you can get sonically, creatively what you want based on your budget. But again, it's managing those expectations. You want Olivia Rodrigo? You can't have Olivia Rodrigo. I'm so sorry. It is what it is, right? You have to be able to narrow your creative vision and understand what your limitations are, but you can still tell your beautiful story with your limitations. You just have to be open to think outside the box, which is my job, to think outside the box.
I also love that the idea when I finally get to have a music supervisor is because at this point, as an indie director producer, have had to go negotiate things that I don't even know what I'm negotiating. Right? I've had to go and be like, we want this song for the trailer, you know, and here's what it is. And then them sitting contracts, and then me and Chris, the other producer, like going through and going, it's just like, I would love to have somebody like you who understands all that language, what we really need to think about. So I'm glad those of you watching have tuned in to watch this, because I think that if you can find a way to get a music supervisor for your films, it's going to level it up in so many ways. I want to do Kayla's question really quick before I get back into my questions. And she says it's very specific, but sorry, Kayla, go ahead. But if you're trying to use a friend's song in your film who passed away, they were over 18 and it was independently produced, how do you go about securing the rights for that? I'm assuming, Kayla, maybe you have a copy of this song, but no one really has the rights, because probably when you're 18, or you know, you write a song, you put it on YouTube or something, and that's just it. How do you go about dealing with that?
So it's very complicated, actually. I call myself also an MD, known as a music detective. I can't tell you how many times I've had to find estates. Like I have a show right now where we had to have a certain song for the story, and I had to contact someone's family member who's a dentist assistant, who put me in touch with their aunt who inherited all this music, had no idea what to do. It was 4 months of trying to track this down. When it comes to people that pass away, it becomes complicated, even if they're 18. When it says independently produced, that's a problem, because who owns the music? Did this person pay the producer for their time? Is it a work for hire, or does the producer own the music? So there's a lot of layered questions you kind of have to do to figure that out. So you probably should hire a professional if this is very important to you, because at the end of the day, you're the liable party if something were to go awry. It's very complicated. There's a lot of things involved. Also, when a lot of people don't realize this, Splice, those licenses are not valid either for distribution. Again, we can go on my rant about, I think they prey on people, of music creators as well as filmmakers. You have to figure out, did they actually write the song, or did their brother write the song, their friend co-write the song with them? There's so many different pieces on those different things. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but you need to do your research about who wrote it, who actually wrote it, who actually owns it. Does the producer own it? Does your friend's parents own it? Does the family own it? There's so many different things. You need to figure out the story of the song. Got to become
I would think too, even if it's like, I wrote the song, I played the song, I produced it myself, I don't write or sing. I wish I did. But I did everything myself, and I put it on YouTube, or I gave it to my friend to hear. I pass away. So even if it's if you know that it's completely mine, I would still say you would go to the family, right?
So yeah, you have to go to the family
to get permission. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's complicated because the family may not know the story. They may not know that this person wrote it with their ex-boyfriend, their ex-best friend. There's so many moving parts to it. Or they covered a song that you didn't know was a cover. Just because it's in a different country does not mean it's public domain. Even because it's old does not mean it's public domain. There's a lot of copyright laws with different countries as well.
I don't know how I've gotten by all these years without a music supervisor. This is stressful.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now you know one. Yeah, it's also important because I've seen a lot of producers, they try to contact record labels or publishers or managers. Again, we have pre-existing relationships, and I could say, why are you asking for that right? You don't need it. That's an additional at least $5,000-$6,000 right there. Like, why even bother with it? We can put it as an option if you need it, right? They'll go to the label, and the label will give them these different things, but it's not an approval. They'll give them just say a breakdown. Well, if you want these things, it's a minimum of X. That's not an approval. But if I contacted them, you know, for Deadly Illusions, it's on Netflix. That's an independent film. We got some great music based off my relationships. But if the producer had contacted the record label, it would have been outside the budget. Because it's like, okay, Jen, I'm like, this is what we need. This is what it is. This is the song, you know, all those different things. So it's also about relationships. And here's the thing. If you contact a record label, publisher, manager, artist, and start that conversation, you're shooting yourself in the foot. I can't fix it. I'm like, you gave me the cards you started with, and I could have gotten that song for $5,000, but because you wanted to save some money, now you're looking at $60,000. Like, oh, you know, it's about relationships. This entire business is about relationships and respect.
It's weird. I feel like talking with you, though, the title music supervisor is a terrible title. Like, I know it's not music producer because that means something else, but you really are a producer. Like, you really are, you're doing what the other producers do in other ways.
Yes, yes. But also it's, a lot of line producers don't know how much music costs, which is the problem. So when you hire line producers, they literally have no idea how much music costs, whether it's hiring a composer, what the composer needs, what money the composer needs to even create the music, to what rights and songs do you need to. That's why it's so important to hire your music supervisor first that can help you look at the script, have a conversation with you, and do a breakdown. Hire them.
Yeah.
Just hire them. You save money.
I think there's a better title for you guys. Just, I don't know.
I know. You know, we all laugh about that. We're like, what is up with this title? And just like the history of music supervision, the titles keep changing. I don't know. It's, you know, it's
so
a strange
on
title.
that note of, you know, your, well, let me get to Alexandra's question and then we'll go to mine. Alexandra says, have you worked in animation production? Does it differ from live action production?
Yes and no. So for animation, it's even more important for pre-production because animation takes so long and you're animating to music, right? So you have a problem. You can't hire your animators and start the process until you have the music. What if they're singing a song? What if we have to rewrite something? What if we're doing original music? It's even more important to bring a music supervisor on. And it is different because you have to think differently. You can't spend the money on the animation until you figured this out, right? It's a little bit different than, oh, well, we can just, you know, pivot a little bit or maybe reshoot or put a new song in post. You animate to the music a lot. So it becomes a little bit more complex, but also more of a marathon than it even is now. Much more of a marathon. Music is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time because people have to go talk to people for permission. It's not like, well, I need to know in 2 days. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. If they have to go to the UK and Japan and, you know, music takes time, and every song is unique and different. Every writer is unique and different. Every artist is unique and different.
So I am a musical director. I love musicals. Can't direct enough. It doesn't matter what kind it is.
I love musicals.
So I work with my producing partner, Chris. He's a composer. He'll write all the music. We only use his music. And then I will direct it. We go into the studio, record it, unless it's live, which we did with Playing with Beethoven. Everything was played back live. Is there a place in that for you? How do you feel? Like, where does the music supervisor fit in that?
So also helping to write the music, kind of talk about the story with the music to give feedback on music.
My thing is, like, I feel like most musicals, especially in indie, are written in someone's house before it even becomes a script. Like they write these songs and then they write a script around them. So
Yeah.
it's, and with Chris, his music is so like, he's so good at the music part of the storytelling. That's why I wonder, like, I guess if you would say like, so I guess maybe is it one of those things where it's, if the music
On
supervisor
cameras.
comes on, you kind of help
Yeah, we
give
help.
feedback, or how
We
does
give
that work?
feedback. We also help with the pre-planning of having to shoot the musical, you know, getting the pre-records done, making sure we work with the choreographer, the rehearsals, if you need to hire on-camera musicians, how that goes with contractors, all these different things. Again, we're such an important team member. Again, we're creative, we're business, we're what are those people called? The airline directors, where it's like, okay, guys, we have to do this, you know, type of thing. You know, I love working on musicals or with choreographers and directors and writers and making sure everyone understands. Also, with COVID protocols, there's different protocols now for how you have to shoot musicals that are very different, making sure that the playback operator gets everything they need. Do we need earpieces? Do we not need earpieces? Are the musicians we hired, do they know how to hold a guitar, or do they have to fake how to hold a guitar? Do you have to show them being like, look, I need you to watch this video and rehearse. It does not look real. Also, with musicals, you have to make sure the music supervisor and the music editor are on set checking the monitor to make sure it looks good, because you can't fix it in post. And if the music editor is like, yeah, I can fix that in post, or like, I can't fix that in post, to make it look organic. It's all these little intricate, little also technical details that have to do with filmmaking that people don't realize. Because have you ever watched something you're like, I don't actually believe they're singing?
As a musical director, yeah, it actually
I don't believe they're
drives me
playing.
nuts.
It drives me nuts.
That's when we're on set, it's all about, I don't care how bad you sound in this moment, you sing for real.
Well, and also just the pre-record, you know, pre-recording the vocals, making sure they're right, lip syncing, making sure it's on.
See, it's weird for me. It's interesting to have this conversation with you, because as the director, I guess it could be there to get a feedback, I guess, but like, I'm in the booth, I've got my eyes closed, I'm picturing the scene, I know what I want, I'm directing that. It seems weird to have somebody else be like, and then obviously if Chris would be there, or the composer, whoever is doing the music, they are giving feedback on vocals. So it's weird to figure out, well, where did and I'm not saying you don't have a place, I'm just going like, this is a great conversation, because most of us don't know, like, where in that pre-record do you feel like you're, I guess, giving feedback or notes? Like, where is that coming from for your side?
So by the time we get on set and we're shooting, we've already done our pre-records, we've already done our notes, we've already done our rehearsals.
Right. But I'm talking about like in the pre-record. Like, I'm in the booth. I literally go in the booth when they're recording songs. Like, I go to those. There's no way you can be if you're a director directing musicals and you're not there when your actors are singing, you're stupid. I'm sorry. You have to be there. You have to close your eyes. You have to picture, okay, he's running through here. He stops, you know, whatever it is, because you want to hear that breath. You need to hear everything that's really happening. So that's why I'm wondering, like, we're an extra set of ears. Supervisor, like, how are you helping me, I guess, in that part?
We're an extra set of ears, because we've had all this conversation. We've read the script. We've talked about what is the songs, what are the characters, and you're like, there's just something missing. I'm like, yeah, you said that this character, she just lost her father, right? And we're supposed to feel that raw pain. There's something missing, right? So then it's for us, at least for me, I'm really good at talking to actors, saying, that was great, thank you. But, you know, I just, can you think of a time that you had some pain, like, to get the music out a little bit more, because they're so in their head about singing and all these different things. And it's kind of nice being the buffer, because, you know, I'm not the director. I'm not, you know, the person who wrote the music, because it can be scary having the person who wrote the music say to you, you know what? And it's just like, I'm just not understanding. It's like, are you having trouble with this note? And also part of my job is, before we go in the booth, figuring out what's the track going to sound like. Is there an arrangement we need to get done? Making sure they rehearse. Okay, Jen said she wanted this for this character and the director. And what did you say? Your friend, the composer's name's Andrew?
Chris, who ironically apparently has been listening to this.
Hi, Chris.
I'm bragging about him, and he says, "Oh, I love this interview."
Hi, Chris. Well, and then Chris says, you know, I wrote this song, you know, XYZ, and this is really important. Again, it's pretty intimidating. Then you have like someone like me who's a nice little buffer, right? To be like, okay, you know, we can talk about this, or is there something that makes you more comfortable? Yeah, Jen, as I mentioned, I'm not very good in, this key is a little bit a problem. Okay, well, we talked about this before. You said it was fine. Let's go figure this out, right? And it's just sometimes it's nice to have that little bit of buffer because people get so in their head and they get scared, right? Because you have Chris who wrote this music and they don't want to insult his lyrics. They don't want to insult his melody. You have your vision that you wrote and that you're seeing. Sometimes you just need that third party that's kind of like a nice little thing. Okay, well, what if we try it like this? It's, again, finding that language to make sure everyone works together.
I love it. I love it. David asks, are there any instances where I would want to try and budget for more than one music supervisor?
There are music supervisor teams, but then I'm not really sure what you mean by the question.
I'm assuming like he means like maybe there's is there a point where maybe there's a lot of work? Like for Beethoven,
we have a coordinator. Yeah, we usually have a coordinator. Yeah. So you have one music supervisor and say, okay, this is like, for example, a musical, right? One person cannot do it all. You usually have a music supervisor and a coordinator that assists them, right? Those types of things, because just like a director, just like the head of costumes, just like all that, it starts here and then you have a team under them. But having two music supervisors, the only thing I could think of is if maybe you have a music supervisor who's never done on cameras in their life, right? They have no idea how to deal with on cameras. People lie and say they do, and then they get in trouble. And then you have maybe another one who's like, oh, I'm really good at post. And again, I mean, it kind of depends. Unless it's like a known music supervisor team, like two of my friends have a company together. They work together a lot. That is their thing. That's one thing. But if you're like, oh, my friend is a music supervisor, but I need to hire a real one. Also, I'm just going to say this. Stop giving out fake credits. Okay. It devalues the craft of music supervision. Also, everyone is a glittery thing. They're like, I'm a music supervisor. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not there yet. I'm a big advocacy of education and building people's foundation. Maybe they're a music coordinator or a music assistant. That is their level, and that is fine. We all start there. We all learn. We all grow. But to put them there and call them a music supervisor, again, if they don't have the experience, that's okay. You could say, hey, Jen, I want to hire you, but my friend is interested in music supervising. Could they work under you? Yes, they don't get the same credit as me. You can have two, how would you feel of having the same credit?
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's no way I would have a second director for any reason.
Exactly.
I don't even understand people who co-direct. I'm just like, no.
Again, it's a creative business vision, and it's a synergy thing. And some people are like, oh, well, some people say, well, I want a music supervisor. You can share a music supervisor credit. I'm like, absolutely not. And if that's a problem, then just pass for me, because I'm not going to devalue my craft, my credits, my hard work, because someone read an article about, oh, I love the show Euphoria.
Well, even if it's somebody who's super qualified like yourself, it just doesn't make sense. You're like, but I can handle the job.
Yeah, I can handle the job. Yeah. And if we need to hire more team, we can hire coordinators and assistants.
It's also, I was going to say, and if it's like, we have money for two music supervisors, just pay me that money and I'll handle it all.
That's the other thing. You're going to devalue money, like someone's worth and money. Know your worth. Yes. Thank you, John.
So on the note of synergy, one of my questions is, how does someone know that a music supervisor is right for them? Because it's not like every music supervisor has the same personality. It's not like everybody has the same, maybe strong skill set. How does someone pick that?
I think it's writing down, okay, I'm doing an animation project, right? So I need someone that understands the marathon. I have a musical or on credit. So on cameras, I need someone that understands that. I have something that's just in post-production, right? So someone who understands how to work with different editors. Again, I'm very blessed because I have such a wide resume and experience, but also writing down those different things. Also, music is subjective. Like I always say, I have no ego. You can tell me I don't like something. That's great, but tell me why, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't explain it, that's a problem. I think it's just figuring out who you are. How do you hire your crew members, right? Do you guys get along? Do you see eye to eye? That's why it's important to read the script, because I have read some scripts where I'm like, maybe this isn't something that's really for me, or for the budget that you have for the time involved, I just don't have the time to dedicate to this, right? I think it's about being honest and upfront of the type of team member you're looking for. How do you hire your casting director? How do you hire your director? I mean, we're the same. We're the same. It's all about team synergy. Do you feel the vibes? All those things. And also being honest with that person. Hi, I'm doing a giant musical. We're an independent musical. How do you feel about musicals? Are you a theater person? Are you not a theater person? Having these conversations with people, I think, is very important. And by the way, it's okay. There's been some projects I'm like, I'm not the right person for this, but I can recommend someone. But we'll still work together down the line. It's just for this particular project, maybe I don't feel I'm the best person, right? That could give it the best that you need. But let me introduce you to my friend so-and-so and vice versa. We all do that.
I would love on that. I just want to point that note out because I do that as a director as well, where it's like, I don't feel like directing this. This isn't for me for a reason. I will recommend my other friends.
Yes.
Everybody who's watching this is something that should be in your world. You do not have to take on every project. If you're not passionate about that project, say no. Save everybody the later heartache and misery because you're miserable. I don't, Marina, sorry. Well, there will be the replay to live on the online. She says, I missed the first 15. I believe you already talked about licensed music from a catalog on websites. We didn't really dive too deep into it. We kind of skirted. Do we want to really kind of hone in on because I know you're not a fan of the sites with the licensing.
The royalty-free music sites, I feel like they pry on music creators and also music and also filmmakers because you can't sell your film with those licenses.
So when it comes to licensing music from a catalog on a website, are there places where indie producers, indie directors can go to find music that they might be able to afford, but they will pay something for you know what I'm saying? So I want could I go to the IMDb of music? Not even IMDb, that's not the right word. Like a catalog where it's like, yes, all these people are open to doing indie music and they're all affordable. Is there something like that exists?
Not really. I think it's just, again, it's all about relationships. There's a lot of really great, they call them sync companies where they represent music for sync, which is what the sync license is what you need to sell your film. That might say, hey, we have some great independent artists. I'm just going to say this. Pay people. It can be $200. Don't ask someone for gratis. It's not okay. It's really not okay. How would you feel if you got asked for gratis for your creative process or your creativity? Like I said, there's always things. I work on projects all the time that have smaller things, and people know I always hit them back where I go to a band and I say, hey, I think your song would be really great in this film. We only have $500, right? And they're like, okay, no problem, Jen. And then they know if I work on another project, I can come back and say, hey, I owe you something. You always have to pay it back. I don't know why this is, but people view music as not important. We're the least most important thing. And they have this attitude. I can just ask musicians to give me my music, their music for free. Again, you go sell your film, you made a profit, right? In theory, hopefully you made a profit. Paid back all your investors, all your costs, and then you're making some money and you're on to your next film. Just treat people the way you want to be treated, I think. Also, we all know about it. Here's the thing. We all know about it. Full disclosure, I quit a film because I didn't like how they viewed music and how they viewed my work. We're going to pay you, we're going to pay X amount of money, this person, but we're only going to pay you $5,000 for an entire film with your relationships. But then, I don't want to have to pay for music at all. So we're just going to ask musicians for gratis. I said, I won't do it. I refuse to do it. Those are my relationships. I'm not going to do it.
And I don't blame you. I actually always say that music is the most powerful art form because there's no other art form that you could hear a split second of something and your arm hairs stand up. There's no movie that can do that. It is a movie. No, it's the theme song from that movie. It's all, the music is so important. Marina, if you have more question on that, please let us know. So on the music catalog, so then it sounds like what you would say is if, as an indie filmmaker, they're going through like a site that's these royalty frees, they find the piece they like, you would say, then let me go talk to them.
Yeah,
Let's
let me go
pay them
talk to
something.
them, right? Or you can put it in as your temp music. Say you go through one of those sites and you're like, oh, I love this song or whatever. Also, music libraries are great resources for independent filmmakers, like Extreme Music. They're really nice people. They have rate cards. You know, you could say, look, I love this song. You know, all these different things. There's Audio Network. They're also really great to work with. You know, music libraries are great resources, and when I first started in the industry, a music library was like, ugh, like the horrible sounding music. Actually, a little known secret people don't know about music libraries. A lot of well-known musicians actually send their music to music libraries because it doesn't fit their artist brand. So it's under a different name.
Oh, interesting.
So like APM is also a really great resource. A lot of rappers will go to APM to use stuff for samples. So you'll be like, oh no, that's like so-and-so song. I'm like, no, that's a sample that they license from APM Music.
Look at all
Right?
the stuff she knows, guys. She knows so much stuff.
It's all full of here. What does they say?
Kayla, when you ask us some of that sound effects the sites offer as well, I would say sound effects are different. And Jennifer might disagree, but I think that sound effects, if it's on a sound effects library, I'm less apt to worry about using that as opposed to
Yeah.
someone's music. And if you're a sound person who does those sound effects libraries, let me know if we're wrong, if you feel differently.
Yeah, I don't know about sound effects and their licenses and stuff because music is my jam. So I'm not sure about the sound effects.
No, music is her jam. See what she did there? David, I'm glad you're here, Dave. He's so many good producer questions.
I
Is
know.
is the Guild of Music Supervisors the same as the petition to recognize music supervisors as part of IA?
Yes. So the Guild of Music Supervisors, I'm also on the board of that, is a nonprofit that's about education, about the craft and everything, also a resource, but it's separate from the union efforts. They support what we're doing. There was a group of independent music supervisors, myself included, that came together and said, enough is enough. We need to change our craft, not just for us, but for the community going forward, as well as new people coming into this craft. This isn't sustainable. So the Guild supports what we do. They have signed the petition. I believe the petition's up on their site. They support what they do, but the Guild and the union are separate. They're not the same. It just happens to be I'm on the board. That is one of the organizing members. There's a few other of us as well, but we're also independent music supervisors. We are not, employed at a studio. So we just said enough is enough. So I hope that answers your question, but they are 100% separate.
Marina asks, can you mention your favorite music libraries? I know you mentioned some that has good music that you can go to. Would you maybe list those again?
APM, Extreme Music, Audio Network. Those are, 5 Alarm's good. There's also new ones popping up. I know BAM just is coming from the UK, just started in the US, that also is growing their library. There's a lot of great music libraries out there. Again, just be aware that you're not being taken advantage. Vanacore is also really great. There's a ton of them out there. Just check them out, type of thing. Artlist, those licenses are not valid. Just trying to think. There's all these like artist-friendly sites, but they're not. They actually take advantage of musicians and artists that sign with them.
I'm glad you let us know that because I think that most of us just assume that those sites are paying them every time.
No, and actually you have to be careful because if you download those licenses for distribution, there's language in there that distributors won't accept for sale. That's the other part. Again, the business part of my job is knowing what to look for, where I'm like, that's a problem, that's a problem, that's a problem.
What about epidemic sound? I don't know what that means. Do you know what
epidemic sound? You have to be careful with them. I had a filmmaker who used them in a film. A big studio was interested in buying it from the festival, and they used epidemic sound. Those licenses were not valid. So then they hired me to have to completely do all the music in the film.
And they had to pay to hire her in the beginning, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, don't do the cleanup stuff. I've also been hired on things where they had a music supervisor and I'm like, did you clear that song? And they had to reshoot an entire scene. So that was $60,000 plus over something that I was like, I know for a fact that writer will never let you change the lyric like that. Also, when you're writing, you can't change he, she, to the different pronoun or to they, you have to get permission for that. You can't just change music without permission. It's someone's property. Even a lyric change, you need permission.
I also would assume that you're also protecting composers, because I know one of Chris's complaints is that, especially in indie, he gives his music over. He's worked forever on it for less money than he should be getting. And then they will go fade out just something like fading out his music instead of having him do it the right way. I would assume as a music supervisor, you protect the composer that way too, right? With the contracts and stuff.
Yeah. So just for me, again, because I respect art, is especially when I'm talking to a producer, I will say, look, I know we can't afford to buy out this music. We don't have that kind of money. Why don't we do a sync license so that they keep their intellectual property, they collect their royalties, they can put it on Spotify, they can do whatever they want for it. We just have a conversation how to make it work. Because again, that is their intellectual property, and you don't have the budget to buy it from them. Also, why do you need it? Why do you need to own their intellectual property? What are you doing with this?
Greed.
Yeah, because that's not required in a license. You don't have to own stuff.
I can't believe this hour has gone by so fast. I honestly, if I'm being truly honest, I was like, it's gonna be like a half hour. But I've been in the business over 20 years, and I've learned so much from you right now. So I think if that's the case, I'm not alone, and we really need to. We're gonna make sure we push out clips from this, wide as we can, because I think more people need to understand what you do and why your job is important. Because honestly, I always thought into this moment, we can handle our music stuff. We don't want to, but we can. But now I'm like, no, I don't want to, and I can't.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, let us help you with your sonic vision, right? Let us help you. Let us curate, with you, right? Because again, I can give suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about the story. It's about the vision. It's about the project. And we're just here to support and help it come to life to the best of everyone's ability, including all the roadblocks, right? Money, timing, blah, 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 all these things. And there's things that we know about and that we think about that you're like, I never thought about that. And you're just like, we're just going to pivot around this. Do we really need that?
I think the moral of this whole hour is, if you have money for music in your budget, that maybe consider hiring a music supervisor to make the most of that money. Mm-hmm. Even though you might think, I don't want to use that money towards a music supervisor, I'd rather use it towards songs. I think you're going to get a better bang for your buck hiring your music supervisor and letting them work with the rest of your budget to make you get the movie that you want. Would you agree with that?
I agree. And also, understand, expectations, right? Again, if I only have $20,000 for all the music, think about that for a second. Where do we want to put the most money? What is the most important thing? You know what? Let's put, this is the background. Everyone's like, I need this song in there. I'm like, it's going to be buried. No one cares. It doesn't add texture. It doesn't add anything. We can do this, for us, because we can go get deals. And then, but here's this really important thing. These two characters, it's their love song. It creates the tone. Also, the composer picks up those same tones to build their love song that goes through it. This is why we have these conversations. We also help identify more bang for your buck. Let's have a bigger song here. We don't need it here. Or we don't have money for any big songs, but what vibe can we get that will build on this?
You're getting so much thanks and so much love in the comments. Make sure you go through and read those. Thank you so much for joining. I cannot believe how great this was. And everybody watching, we will make sure this will obviously live on our Facebook and our YouTube page. I would highly recommend you sharing with other indie filmmakers, because this has been something I think most of us had no idea we should know about. So thank you so much, Jennifer. And everybody who's still stuck around, I think I have some things to give you, some wins, some things to win. So hang tight for a second while Kayla gets us a winner. You can still get into our Fusion event. So DaVinci Resolve Fusion is basically VFX for your film after it's done and you want to make some fun stuff. It does it for Infusion. And we have a live class on September 8th. That's this September 8th. That's not right, because that would be, I'm very confused. It's Saturday, October 8th. Ha! I'm with you. I'm fine. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. October 8th in Burbank. So get in there and apply for that. It's on our website. I believe you can apply for that. Kayla will probably put it in the box as well. Our next live stream event is September 20th. And that's all about how, for those of you who work in post-production, how you can get repped. We're kind of focused it around composers, because our composer, Chris, is going to host that one, but it's really going to dive into how do you in post-production get repped. Keep an eye out for our newsletter. The first week of October, we're going to be announcing our newest initiatives, when the dates for the applications are going to open, who's eligible, as well as other events and other good things. Remember to submit your 20-minute or less short film to Blackmagic Collective's Film Festival. It's only $5 for members. Your waiver codes are in the newsletter. So you'll have that. There's a new code each month. And like I said, there's so many cool prizes. I mean, Blackmagic cameras, money, these beautiful little awards that you can put on your shelf and stare at for days to remind yourself how great you are. And thanks again to our sponsor, Blackmagic Design, and to Sigma for helping us out this year. Okay, I think I have a winner. Here comes the winner. I think a winner. Nope. Kayla, did you give me a winner yet? I'm waiting. This is like, I need some theme music, some hold music. And the winner is Alexandra Jimenez. You win a seat of DaVinci Resolve. Kayla will be in touch with how to get that to you. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.